going in and out. So hopefully people will log back in. Um, what can you do? And there's no storm or nothing. I did update my little Wi-Fi box today though, so I'm wondering if that's why. But hey guys, I apologize. We went the internet went out, so we're just gonna keep trying to go through the show or whatever. If it cuts back out, I'll get back on. Y'all just forgive me. I got a feeling, Satan trying his best to make sure we don't be able to do what we need to do today. But let's get it back going. So when we was cut off, what I was saying was me and Jessica finally started working out together this week. So we've been working out at night. So I've been super excited about that. I finally talked her into getting into the gym with me. So it's been a pretty good week. But since we're already having technical difficulties, I'm gonna keep the show rolling while we while it's working. All right, and so let's go ahead and hop into our Christians Got Talent. All right, so today we got a guest on, Courtney, and she's gonna be talking about homeschooling and educating our kids, which goes perfect with what we're talking about today. Proverbs 22 verse 6 states, train a child up in the way they should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. Our guest tonight is doing just that. Courtney is a homeschooling mom of two, as well as a certified health coach and a licensed paramedic. Don't know how she's doing all that, but we're going to find out tonight. She is also the host of the Imperfectly Pollyanna podcast, where she focuses on finding the good and life's imperfections, whether in homeschool, faith, health, or just overall life. Courtney has been in the homeschooling game for over 7 years. She has experienced struggles, insecurities, worries, as well as navigated through several different learning styles and curriculums. She believes anyone can homeschool if given the right resources. She definitely hasn't seen my kids' grades when me and my wife helped them with their homework. But all jokes aside, our children are a gift from the Lord, and Courtney speaks on being chosen for this time to be their parents. Check out the clip from her podcast, Imperfectly Pollyanna. Let's go.
So let me ask you, are you willing to sit back and let your child walk into the mouths of lions or be swept away in the dangerous waves that the world is throwing their way? There is a balance in sheltering your child and controlling what they are exposed to or what they're involved in. People who say they're afraid of failing their kids if they homeschool them because they aren't educated enough, don't have a degree, etc., I totally understand that, but let me tell you, you cannot fail your child when you are their biggest fan and the biggest protector they have outside of God. You cannot fail them when their safety and well-being are your first priority. Yes, I know we run a chance of our children rebelling when they are older. Hi, I was one of those young adults. I'm not saying we should strangle our kids or lock them up in the basement until they are 18. However, don't get me wrong, I'm sure we've all felt like that might not be a bad idea. But what I am saying is that if you do nothing, if you just sit and wring your hands saying, this world is just so awful and I'm scared for my children, or I can't believe what my kid is doing, or I can't believe that they're doing this or that, or I wish I knew what to do. If you sit there and just say all of that, your child is still in your care. Do something.
All right. Looks like Asia in the middle of doing something right now. But Courtney, welcome to the show. I truly am grateful for you to be on. How you doing?
Thank you. I am doing great. I'm excited to be here. And I can't wait to chat about this topic. This is going to be fun.
Amen. Amen. I'm trying to see if people, well, somebody's on, because I'm seeing two viewers, but I'm not seeing it on my little restream here. So guys, if you're out there, drop a comment in the chat. Let me know if y'all picking this up. We're trying our best to get over these technical difficulties. So just let me know if you're able to see the show right now. Somebody's watching, because I see the views. But all right, so let's hop into this thing, because you're doing a lot, sister, and I don't know how you're able to do it, but we definitely we're gonna hop into it. I'm not sure if I told you this outside, but I'm also I got my master's in adult education, so I decided to teach adults, because I was like, I can't, like, dealing with kids. It's a whole nother level of talent that it takes, because with kids you gotta motivate them, you gotta kind of get them to want to learn. With adults, they're there because they want to, get a promotion, or they're paying for it, and so it's a little bit easier to motivate adults. So we just gonna hop right into it. And one, I was listening to one of your podcasts, right? I think it was when God closed one door. You were discussing how the adoption door was closed, how the house door was
Hmm.
closed, and I actually just went through that with trying to get a house. But what I found interesting was that your kids were ministering to you, right? And I think your son was saying how you should listen to your own advice, and your daughter was like, God can do the impossible, right? So to me, I feel like that's a
Uh-huh.
testament to not only you as a mom, but also as a teacher and as a disciple of Christ, making disciples. So tell us a little bit about kind of like what motivated you to homeschool your kids.
Sure. I always think like I'm like that saying of out of the mouth of babes is like spot on because it's so true. They get me. Like about the time you think they're not listening, they are.
Yeah,
So, um, for us, we chose to homeschool. We were a little bit hesitant because our son had never actually been to preschool, had never been with anybody besides our family. The idea terrified me of sending him to kindergarten just because I was his mom and I just want to protect him. But the more that my husband and I talked about it, it was one of those things of we knew that we didn't want our kids to go to public school because we did not want them exposed to the things that were already being shared that kids were being exposed to. And that was, however many years ago, 8 years ago. And so the thing was is that we didn't have enough money to be able to afford the private school that we wanted them to go to because we made too much for financial aid and not enough to pay the ridiculous amount of monthly tuition. So we decided to just take a leap of faith. We talked to my sister-in-law and brother actually have homeschooled their children for since day one, and they've been a great encouragement. And so we just decided to just hop in, and we figured we're just going to do it 1 year at a time. We can't mess him up whenever he's 5. Like he can do preschool, we can do that, we can do kindergarten. We'll do 1 year at a time, and then here we are now, and he's almost to be 13. He's in 7th grade, and we have a daughter now that's in 3rd grade, and we're just still doing 1 year at a time. We just keep on doing it. So that's really where we started. And I will say, there has not been a time where there have been several times, I should say, that I have really, really struggled and completely doubted that decision. I'm like, what was I thinking? I lost my mind.
yeah.
And then I will say, within the last few years, God has really just confirmed that we have made the right decision, that He has us where we're supposed to be for a reason. So, yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Hey man, but you're also a health coach and a paramedic, and then you got your pocket. How are you able to do all that while
Yeah.
homeschooling?
Well, I don't know that I'm doing everything great. I'm just putting it all in there and hoping that God will just like fix the mess. But as far as being a paramedic, so I work 24-hour shifts. And so the way that our rotation goes, we do school on our days off. And
Mm,
now that they're older, I can give them things that they're able to do without my help. They don't need my help to, have 20 minutes of reading. So, but we mostly just do stuff on my days off. And then the health coach stuff, I just kind of do it here and there. It's not a full time thing for me. So I might have a few clients here and there. I teach some classes at our homeschool co op. And so that's already at a place that we're already at. And we have just found what works for our kids, what type of learners our kids are. And then we're not afraid to change things up. I've changed curriculums so many times over the years because kids change how they learn. I change how I learn. Sometimes I'm better at hearing something, sometimes better at watching. So that's how we make it work. And we give ourselves grace. I don't have to sit them down for 8 hours a day. I can
mm.
sit down and we're done in a couple of hours, unless we get on a rabbit trail of something and, you know, want to learn about a new topic or something like that. So I kind of just figure it out as I go. I'm totally just God told me to do this, so I'm going to do it, and he's just going to he's going to have to figure it out for me cuz I don't know. But it is about giving yourself grace and not thinking that you have to know it all. I would not be able, I don't have the patience to teach adults. I would rather teach kids because I'm like, I can excuse their actions because they're children.
Yeah.
But adults, I'm just like, no thanks.
I don't know. I don't know. With adults, it seemed to be a little easier for me because, like I said, they're motivated to be there. So if they fail, they waste their money. If they fail, like
Sure.
nobody's forcing them to be there. You touched on something that I'm familiar with because of my teaching background. But you said you learn how your kids learn, or you realize how they
Hmm.
learn. You want to touch on that a little bit? Like, what do you? Um,
Yeah.
I think it's clear. I mean, I think we want to make it clear to the audience members that kids learn different ways. So a lot of times, teachers may
Hmm.
teach in their preferred learning style. So then your kid is in school, they're misbehaving, or it may seem like they're a little bit slower than other kids. But in reality, the teacher may not be teaching it or delivering it in a way that they can
Hmm.
learn. So you want to touch on like the process of you
Yeah.
understanding how your kids learn.
Sure. Yeah. And you're exactly right. That was one thing that's been great about us is that, in the education system, teachers do they have their, like you said, they have their thing that's their way of teaching, and they have to teach a certain amount of things in a certain way to multiple children all at the same time. And whenever that happens, you might have a child where a parent thinks, oh my goodness, my kid has fallen behind. They're not reading at 5, they're not learning multiplication by second grade. Yeah, and so it's either you have to either be pushed through if your child isn't ready, their brain isn't developed yet enough to understand that
Hmm.
concept. And so they push them through to the next thing, to the next grade or what have you, or they will sit there and they will maybe leave them behind. And so that child is left to think like there's something wrong with them. And really, it's just that they're not at that pace yet, or they're not learning in that way. So for me, I had this whole idea whenever we first started that I wanted my kid to have the same experience that I did in school, not thinking about the fact that there were so many things about school that I absolutely hated. And why would I want my kid to experience that? Like, why? So, what I did is that I started out doing these things that I loved the curriculum. It was all about God and creation and doing all
Mm.
these things, but it was lots of worksheets. And my son would just sit there and just cry. He was not a worksheet kid. He was just like, why? And of course not. He's kindergarten at that
Yeah.
point. And so I changed. I said, you know what? Forget it. We're just going to toss that out the window. We'll try something else. So I tried a new curriculum, still had lots of worksheets. I don't know what I was thinking. Bless my heart. Um, but then I finally realized that he was more of a hands on, which boys typically are. A lot of girls are too, but boys are also, they tend to be a little bit um, slower, for lack of a better term, of being ready to learn like your reading and your spelling and that kind of stuff. So I had to give him grace. And it wasn't until he was 7 that he really started picking up reading. And it was by learning how he was doing. I read a book. You can get it from the library. It's by a lady named Kathy Duffy. And she's done several updates to the book, but it's called like 102 Homeschool Curriculum Picks. And in that, she basically gives you questions where you can figure out what type of learner your child is and then what kind of teaching style you want to do, and then she offers suggestions for curriculum ideas based off of
Hmm.
that. So I did that, and then over the years just kind of found like, all right, we're in a good groove at this point in time. We like a lot of stories and learning through stories, learning through videos, learning through hands-on activities, um, a lot of learning through our lifestyles. And once I let go of my expectations of what I thought learning should look like, then we were able to actually enjoy learning, because that's the ultimate thing, is that you want your kids to love to learn, because you don't have to teach them all the things, you just have to teach them how to learn those things. So as an adult, they can be like, I don't know that answer, but I know how to find out.
Yeah. 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 It's a
Yeah.
little bit more difficult for kids in that aspect. Um, I know one of your things is like taking kids back for taking their education back for Christ. And Asia, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you do like a speech, or like didn't you go and talk at something about like winning back our youth, or something to that extent? I feel like I seen a thing you did on Facebook where you were speaking, doing a speaking engagement on winning our youth back. Am I mistaken on that?
No, no, that I did that last weekend. It was called Reclaiming Our Youth, and we partnered with the school board. And really, some of the things that we talked about today is just how kids learn differently and what
Mm,
is the best avenue in teaching them. And we kind of talked about sometimes they're dealing with things emotionally and they're dealing with things at home, and so those type of things can impact their learning. So they gave it a couple of examples, like having a kid that was sleeping in class all the time, and usually the approach would have been, hey, they're sleeping in class, you need to wake up, you need to go outside. But some of the students, they didn't get sleep the night before because of they were sleeping in the car all night because they're homeless, or their parents were arguing all night long. And so just being sensitive to that child's emotional and mental um, place. And also, as our guest, I'm sorry, as our guest spoke about understanding their learning. Some kids are visual, some kids are
hmm
hands-on, some kids learn by listening, by hearing, by doing. And so I definitely agree with that aspect of knowing your audience, knowing even from like whether you're teaching adults or you're teaching kids, knowing the way that they learn and how they receive and retain information is so important.
Yeah, yeah. I know that's one of the things I try to implement with my ministry actually. So, not everybody is just gonna just pick up and read. So I try to do the audio. I try to do this video. I know what and speaking of books, I know I wrote a book, Asia wrote a book, and Courtney, you're in the middle of writing a book. But one of the things I did in my
Yes.
book, I have like a little I have a study guide hands on where you can interact part that go with my book as well. And I believe Asia is doing something similar like that on Facebook for her book. So for you, Courtney, what does that mean? Taking back our kids' education for Christ. Like
Yeah.
what drove you to want to do that?
hmm Well, I think that it was one of those things where I I would say that it's sort of like I was living almost like in a bubble at the beginning of our homeschooling journey, because I had certain reasons why we were homeschooling at the beginning, and they changed. And as the world has progressed and I've been looking at more things and paying attention, and as our kids get older, they start getting more involved in other activities. And homeschoolers, one of the things that people think is, oh well, they're not socialized. There's that whole big question of socialization. And I'm here to tell you that homeschoolers sometimes are the most socialized people you will ever meet, because we are always doing all the things. And so, with that, I say that because they are exposed to the world. And so, especially once they get to be a certain age, you can't really protect them from everything. And whenever I started hearing and seeing and reading about all the things that whether kids were being exposed to at extracurricular activities or in schools, things that they were watching, some of the curriculum that was coming out, and our kids are so inundated with social media right now, and
Hmm.
they can
Yeah,
get a hold of anything. And you might
yeah,
think like, oh, my kid is totally innocent, but I am telling you, they
Yeah,
can watch YouTube on a kids channel and still get ads and videos that expose them to things that,
yeah,
just as an adult, I would be like, are you serious? Like, I don't want to watch that.
yeah.
So I feel like one of those things and actually I talked about this recently over on my Instagram, was that a lot of times we tend to compromise, as even just as adults, but I think that it starts young as well. But we compromise on our beliefs. And so we might say, oh well, this isn't really that bad, or this is okay, this is small. And so the devil, like, he hides in those innocent things, and it comes across our children as well. He hides, evil hides in pretty little packages. And so we
yeah,
compromise, we give in, everything's kind of soft and easy and nice, until suddenly we've compromised so many times, our kids have been compromised so many times, that he doesn't have to hide anymore. He can be out in plain sight, and we're like, oh, well, that's normal. That's normal. That's life.
Man, you are
And
speaking some
I'm just
serious
not
truth.
okay with that.
Yeah, you speaking some serious truth. I know, Asia. At one point, we talked about. I can't remember which one, but when we were back when we had time to go over like headline news, we haven't done it in a while. But there was a parent who was angry because the books that her kid had access to at school, and it was a lot of like
Yeah.
masturbating stuff in there. Then you have like where drag queens coming in and reading to the kids, and then they're teaching kids that. They're teaching kids like, and here, and I want to be clear when I say this. For me, I actually don't have a problem with you teaching kids about different families and different lifestyles and that kind of stuff. I have a problem when you teach them that. Well, one, if you're teaching them about sex, I don't think you should be teaching kids, especially in middle school. You know, they shouldn't know about sexual things or whatever. But if you're teaching them about like, hey, well, some families look like this or some families look like that, or even if those books on those things are available but not mandatory. I'm cool with that. What I'm not cool with is if you're teaching my kid that what they believe is wrong. So if I'm teaching them biblical truth and then you're saying that yeah, you're an evil person or you're a bad person if you believe that way, I think it should be taught in a way where it's just biases are strictly taken out of it. And the reason why I say that is because as a Christian, I wouldn't want my child to be forced to learn Islam or to be told that Islam is the right way, or and vice versa. I'm sure there's a Muslim person who don't want their kids learning about Christianity, or at least saying that this is the right way and this is how it should be. And so I don't understand why some of these other new topics that are coming up, which are clearly like people personal beliefs, they forcing it on other people, and that's where I have an issue. I have an issue with that. Also, too, like if you're gonna allow these certain things, then allow Jesus. Like allow our kids the opportunity to learn about God and that kind of stuff as well. I know, and I'm not gonna say who the person is, right? Because I don't want to, get them in any issues at work. But I know somebody who works at a place with kids where Halloween came around and it was okay to have demonic stuff and learn about like Bloody Mary, how to conjure up Bloody Mary and all this kind of stuff. Then they had like the Day of the Dead type thing where they're teaching them about how to talk to the dead and have altars to the dead. Then you turn around and say, when Christmas comes up, hey, don't be too Christmassy because not everybody believe that. It's like it's okay to teach these other like straight up beliefs, but then when it comes to Jesus, it's a problem. And that's that right there is just like that right there is what my issue comes into play. And so I definitely understand the need to take back our kids' education. I definitely understand the need for us as parents to be teaching our kids biblical truth, especially, but also teaching them how to discern when they hear other things, because at the end of the day, like you said, YouTube, they're going to be able to see things. When they go to their friend's house, they're going to see things. When they go, just like we can't completely shelter them away from it. And so I always like to look at Daniel. Because Daniel was able to, he was taken captive, and then he was forced to learn the ways of his captors, which was basically pagan. And then somehow, he was still faithful to God. So God granted him wisdom and blessings, and him and his friends, they were like the wisest of all the people. So they end up, Daniel specifically end up moving up in the ranks. And so I think that's a powerful story on how we can be in this world, not give up on our values of Christ, but still succeed. And so that's why, like, for me, I typically try not to shelter my kids from things. I take them as opportunities to say, okay, hey, we saw this. Here's what they're saying, but what does the Bible say? Well, what does God say? What are y'all thoughts on that?
Asia, did you want to say anything?
I don't know. Oh, she.
Yeah, I just want to make sure my mic was off mute. Yeah, I definitely think like it's the responsibility of the parents and the household to kind of teach their kids, because if you don't teach them, not just even from an educational standpoint, just from life things that they're gonna see, the world's gonna teach them. Even in places of identity, if you don't instill who they are and who God has said they are, the world is going to tell them who they should be. And so I think that there's a big responsibility that falls upon parents to train their children in the way that they should go. And also understanding that they are going to be exposed to other things. So even, when it comes to these topics of, as far as sex and masturbation and, homosexuality right now, they're pushing this whole LGBTQ agenda, which is also, allowing boys to go into girls' bathrooms. I mean, in certain areas. And so, you have to begin to allow your kids to know that this does exist, and this is what God says about it. And our heart posture is to love everyone, but to also understand what God's word says about these things. And so I definitely think it's a responsibility of the household, and that we are not going to be able to, shelter the kids, because even as it was mentioned before, I mean, YouTube it has everything on there. So,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, real quick before you speak on the court, let me just say a couple of hellos. Laura, thank you for checking in. We sure do appreciate you. How you doing, sister? Restoring broken women in the house. Amen. Let me see if I can make this a tad bit bigger. All right. My grandparents on as well. Thank y'all for checking in with us. And then Mario couldn't make it, guys. He's all doing his pastorly duties, but he said he is tuning in. I think they're doing something at his church tonight pretty soon, so he's trying to help set up and do all that. But thank y'all all for checking in. But Courtney, I'm gonna kick it back over to you on on the issues that we're seeing with our kids. And Sean, she said she's here. Thank you, Sean, for checking in. So what are some of your thoughts on what we were talking about, Courtney?
Yeah, I agree with what Asia said, that they're going to learn it one way or the other. And so one of the reasons that now that we have continued to homeschool is because we recognize that it's either going to be us or the world that exposes them to things. And I don't want to shelter my children, but I do think that there are certain ages where things are appropriate and not appropriate. And so being able to be in control of that as the parent is what we have been called to do. The Lord did not give the world our children. He gave our children to us. And so I know that, like, there's the saying of, it takes a village and all that kind of stuff. And there's something to be said for a community of people. But ultimately, whenever we are in front of the Lord, will he say, well done, my good and faithful servant, and you took care of the children that I gave you as a gift? Or is it going to be something to the extent of, well, the world basically exposed because that was just normal? I see a lot of parents, and this is not like something against parents, because we are all ultimately just doing the best we can in the current conditions that we're in. But we are not a surprise. Like, we are not a surprise to be here to God. God is not surprised. He put us here at this time for this moment to raise the children that we have in this moment. And so if there is a quote, and I wrote it down because I love it so much and I didn't want to get it wrong, but it's by a man by the name of Vodi Bockham, I think is how you say it.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar
And the
with
quote
voting.
is, oh, I love him. Um, but he says, we cannot continue to send our children to Caesar for their education and be surprised when they come home as Romans. And I want to, like, shout that from the rooftops to people, because it's so true. Parents are surprised whenever their kids are like, why is my child acting like that? Or why was my child exposed to that? Or, this or that. And, well, if we're sending them out and being like, well, they're going to get exposed to things in the world, it is what it is, it's a part of growing up, well, then we can't be surprised whenever they're doing the things that are straight up sinning, or they're exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to. So I think that we have to be active as parents. Does that mean that we have to be with them 24 hours a day? No. But whether we're homeschooling or we're sending them to a public education system, we need to be the ones that are standing up and saying, this is okay and this is not okay. And raising our children to be warriors for the Lord, not to just be hanging out with their friends. You know, Jesus did not just hang out with the lepers, but he went to them and he loved them and he healed them. And so we want to teach our children to do that. We want to do that. And hopefully that makes sense. It's just there's so much more of a bigger picture in my head of where, you know, my desire is for our children. We shouldn't just be, you know, um, serving the Lord and doing things for the Lord, but we're an example to our children, but we're also teaching them how to do that as well. And that's more than an education can do at all. So again, it just goes back to, you know, be present with your kids and let them know the truth and show them the truth. Be an example of the truth and teach them how to do that as well. Putting on the armor of God every day, no matter where they're at in life, so that whenever they get older, they've already been equipped with what they need to be equipped with. I'll step off my soapbox for a second.
No. That was good. That was good. And I agree with a lot of points. Matter of fact, I actually saw that sermon where Vodi Bakum said that. And a lot of it I agree with, but some of it I kind of like, I look at it like it's a balancing act, right? Because one, just so y'all know, when I first joined the military, I was a cop in the military, and we were very direct, straightforward, get stuff done. And I was real like hardcore with like how I raised my kids and how I told them what to do and that kind of stuff. And then my wife, though, she operates with a little bit more grace. Now, every now and then she'll get a little hot-headed too and, you know, snap out for the kids. But she teaches me to kind of like operate with a little bit more grace and not so hardcore all the time, right? And our oldest, who's 22 now, like one of the biggest regrets I have with him is that maybe I was a little bit too hard on him, to the point where like I couldn't really get through to him. And so from that, I started learning that, hey, there's different ways to approach your kids, and there's different ways of handling things. And there's something where like Vodi Bakum said, well, if you keep sending them to Caesar, you can't be mad when they come back acting like Romans. But there's a lot of kids who grew up in the church, who went to church schools, who family was so strict on them that once they got free, they wanted absolutely positively nothing to do with God, the church, or anybody. Some of them was even hurt by people in the church. And so I had to realize that God doesn't force me to do anything. So for me personally, I typically don't force my kids to even love God. I take my responsibility on to being an example. They see me pray, they see me read the Bible. I actually teach it to them. We have conversations about that kind of stuff. But like, for example, at my church, they have youth night on Wednesday nights at 7:00, and our pastor's like, you should bring the kids. They need to be here. And and so one, most of the time when I take my kids to those things and I ask them what they learned, they can't even tell me. Two, they're mad and they don't really want to be there. So then three, their experience with God is a negative experience. Now, mind you, now that I don't make them go, my son, he went on his own and joined Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So not only is he an athlete, but he joined this Christian thing. My daughter comes home to me and say, hey, me and my friends were talking about God and this and that. And so they're starting to want to learn about God on their own without me forcing it, because they're looking at my example versus me forcing it on them, and spoon feeding it on them. And so I think it's definitely a balance there, to where one, us as parents, we're held accountable and we got to be stewards. But then two, we look at Jesus and we look at the Heavenly Father, and when he deal with people, he kind of do it with love, compassion, and never really forces people to do it. And so I think if we go too extra hard at forcing them, we can push them away. And if we go too liberal, then the world can just swallow them up and eat them up. And so there's definitely like a little dance you got to do there to and really, at the end of the day, regardless of what we do and what we say, it's going to be the Father who draws them near. So we can keep planting those seeds and keep showing that example, but ultimately it's not going to really be anything that we do. It's going to be their relationship and their experience with the Father themselves. And so those are just kind of my thoughts. Age, I kind of see you shaking your head. You want to hop in there and say a couple things?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Courtney said about, um, being able to control the age in which kids are exposed to certain things. I think, we're living in a society now that's just pushing things on kids, I think, way too young. Like they just know way too much too young. It just seems like their innocence is being robbed, where, you know, growing up, we were more concerned about, hide go seek and the games that we played. Now, they're thinking about boys and stuff too early.
Yes.
It's just they're being exposed to sex too early. And it seems like they're just society is almost robbing the kids of their innocence. And I know
Mhm.
a lady that I kind of do
Mhm.
ministry with, they're really pushing to go to the school board, because the curriculum that they're introducing to our school system is literally talking to like young kids about masturbation and about
Yeah.
telling them that it's so these feelings are okay to do these type of things. I have a aunt that is a school teacher, and she taught like I think the second grade, and she said that she put her kids in a group circle, and she said one of the little girls were literally playing with herself in this circle. And she was like, she was like, what in the world is going on? But she had to dig into the fact that, like, things were going on. The little girl was being sexually abused. And I asked, was she being, she said, well, no, that family, they kind of taught them, in their curriculum down there, that it's okay to explore your body. Like, I mean, just introducing kids to stuff way too young. And so I
Yeah.
just think that, I definitely agree with Courtney that I think that there's an age appropriate way to be able to introduce
Mhm.
your kids to things, and I guess that's one of the benefits of not having the government to give the curriculum versus you being able to teach your child at home.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
I'm not gonna lie. Private school would be nice. Homeschooling would really be nice, but yeah, that would take a lot. That like to be honest though, if you think about it though, like back in biblical times, that the mother was typically the teacher, and she was at home, and she had the time to do it. And now,
Mhm.
cost of living goes up, and then we put ourselves in debt, or whatever the case may be. Like nowadays, it is almost impossible to live off of one income. Um,
Mhm.
and then like you said, Courtney, like even if you do make a decent living, if you're minimum wage or whatever, then you don't get any help. So like the rich, they just keep finding loopholes to stay rich, and the poor get all the assistance, but the middle class hard working person just is completely out of luck. And so, but yeah, no, I agree. My youngest is 12, so we're a little bit on the older side, and when they were younger, I wasn't following Christ. So it's definitely my perspective is from a little bit older kids versus the younger kids. But no, that's a
Mhm.
valid point of teaching kids. Like honestly, I don't think it's the school place to teach them about masturbation and sex at any age. To be honest.
Mhm.
And I definitely don't think they should be teaching kids, or like if you want to change your sex, then your parents are wrong or they try to stop you. Like that's what makes me angry when you get to a point of you're telling our kids that they're when you make my kid feel like uncomfortable, and like it's almost borderline harassment. Like if my kid come to your school and they're not comfortable because of what we're teaching them at home, and you're teaching them something different, now they're trying to figure out who's right or wrong, mom or dad, and or the teachers or whatever. And it's not just with them. It's like a lot of times too in the church, we'll say certain things where it's like we'll make assumptions on certain things to where when the kid is around you, now they're feeling judged. They don't want to learn. So if you make a kid uncomfortable in the learning environment, you've already set them up for failure. So nah, it's definitely a lot. And I know we can go on and on, but AJ, I know you got to get off soon. So I'm gonna wrap up this portion of the show with this one question. And let me see if I can find it. I got to look at my little notes here. Give me 1 second. I wanted to ask you, it was a specific question I wanted to ask you, Courtney, and I cannot find it right now. So give me a second.
That's okay.
Oh, it's about your podcast. All right. So I know on your podcast you're doing a giveaway soon. So let us know about the
Mhm.
giveaway. But also, if we were going to listen to one episode, your hottest, the must go to episode, which one would it be and why? So giveaway, and what episode should everybody go listen to today?
Sure. Okay. So per downloads, I'll tell you per downloads, you would do Fear is Not Mandated. That should be in season 3. I think it's I don't remember. It would be like one of the more recent ones within the last few months. So fear is not mandated, would be my biggest one outside of raising warriors. And then the giveaway is it's something fun that I've got going on. I actually just started it yesterday and it's going through the 20th of December. I've got a fun mug that I'm getting away talking about raising warriors based out of Ephesians about putting on the full armor of God and teaching our children how to do the same and preparing them for life. And so it's super easy to get entered into it. You just have to follow me and share with your friends, and it's super simple, but it's just another way for me to be able to, have some community with people. So that would be my answers.
Yeah. I got to do better than that as well. So, what's going on? So real quick, let me address something. Dave, who used to do the show with me, got mad jokes because he always say I'm giving shout outs to all my family members. What's up, Dave? Thank you for checking in, brother. And my favorite cousin, Davion, is checking in. So there I go again, giving shout outs to my family. But hey, like you just said, Courtney, you got to build that community. I look at this as time to fellowship with brothers and sisters in Christ. So I got to interact with the people in the comments. But yeah, for those of you all who are watching, a couple of things, just the perfect time to bring it up. One, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so that way more people can see the show. But then two, in order to check out Courtney's podcast and Perfectly Pollyanna, if you go back to the beginning of the show where I had the slideshow, I got a QR code that will take you straight to her stuff and you can check her out. So check her out. And let me know if you win come back and let us know if you win one of the giveaways. Okay, so we're going to transition.
Awesome.
So that way we can definitely hear Asia's thoughts on this before she had to go. But everything we've been talking about ties perfectly into the question that we're going to be doing today. And so that question is, should we allow kids to believe in Santa? And is it hindering their faith? And so what we'll do is we'll have Asia speak on it first, just to make sure we get her thoughts in before she has to take off. And then we'll let you go, Courtney, and then I'll close us up. And then those of y'all in the who's watching, let us know in the comments, should we allow kids to believe in Santa? Do you think it may be hindering their faith if they find out the truth about Santa? And let us know kind of what you doing around the Christmas holidays and what kind of traditions you all have and what traditions you all had to get rid of after coming to Christ. So we'll kick it over to Asia first.
So I think, I guess off top, we shouldn't lie to our kids. We should never lie to them, especially if we want them to believe the truth. And I think when it comes to faith and believing in God, you don't want to set the tone of already getting them to believe in, I guess, this fairy tale that does not exist. I also want to say that, we have to let them know the truth that even though, Christmas is celebrated, this is a lot of people celebrate the day of birth, that December 25th is not Christ's birthday, right? And I think if we, I think Mario may go into this a little bit more. But when we look at the history of Christmas, it was Nimrod's birthday. So a lot of times, culture, we just kind of celebrate because we've always celebrated. I never questioned why we put a Christmas tree in our house. I never questioned why we put gifts under. It's just something where everybody's excited about it because you have the ability to give and to receive. So when it comes to Santa and when it comes to, intertwining that with Christ's birth, and, I just think it brings about a lot of, I guess, confusion, when it comes to if we're really celebrating Christ, then where does Santa come from? Where does the cookies come from? Where does all these things come from? I don't know what age I was when I learned the truth. And now that I think about it, I don't know if my mom ever told us Santa was coming. I know the tooth fairy was something that was really big. So when I lost my tooth, I was looking for money up under my pillow, but I'm not really sure if I really believed the whole Santa Claus narrative or if I was like heartbroken when I found out Santa didn't exist. I don't think I did. And then I guess part B of the question, does it hinder their faith? I think you want to build trust. I think you want to have communication with your kids and let them know the truth about Christmas and the truth about God and the truth about, who he is and, and what he stands for. So I just don't, I just don't think it benefits them in the long run to teach them about Santa Claus, and just even as you were saying, initially, how similar it sounds to who God is. He's going to check and see if you're naughty or nice. And, it's almost giving them God vibes without it being who God is. So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, all good points. We're gonna kick it over to Courtney. What are your thoughts, Courtney?
Well, I want to like high five Asia because I agree. I don't remember. I grew up as a pastor's kid, so that's right. High five. I grew up as a pastor's kid, so but we did Santa, and it wasn't ever like a huge thing. And I don't remember when I found out the truth about it. It just kind of like happened. It did not affect my faith personally. Um, I just, in fact, now we now have presents that it's becoming running joke that we have presents from like Rudolph and Frosty and all the things just to be funny. It's at my parents' house. That's what they
Yeah.
do. It's just a thing. But so I think for my kids, it was one of those things where it just became that was just something that you did. Um, I recently had a conversation with my son about, his belief or lack thereof. And of course, he knows the truth. And I asked him, like, once you realize the truth, did that make you doubt? And I just had a raw and honest conversation with him. And I asked him, did it make you doubt, like, anything else that I have ever told you about being the truth? And he was like, no. And I said, and you do understand that like our belief in God, that is the truth. And he was like, yeah. And we have conversations. We've never made Santa or the tooth. Now my son did tell me like he figured out a long time ago the truth about the tooth fairy, but he was like, but don't quit giving me money. So he didn't want to fess up because he wanted the money. But we have truth in our house a
Right.
lot. So, but the thing is that we try not to make that the focus, So as they get older and they find out the truth, it has never, even whenever they did believe, it was not the focus for us. We focused on the story of Jesus, the reason for why we celebrate Christmas. And then, yeah, sure, we'll leave some cookies out. We might have a gift from Santa, but then we go back, like, it's mentioned like maybe for a few minutes and that's it. And what we've been able to do then is also talk about where Santa came from, where the story of Santa came from, because it came from a real man. He was a real man, Saint Nicholas, and he did do those things. He helped people, he helped the poor, and with no expectation of giving back. And he was actually persecuted for being a Christian. And so we can take that and say, this was a real man, that it proceeded through as becoming a myth. But just like that, God gave us his son, and we celebrate it at Christmas time because it's all about giving and the spirit of giving and that kind of stuff. So do I think that it hinders their faith? I'm sure that there are people out there that their faith has been like, they've been devastated. And I'm sure that because of that, they don't ever tell their children those kind of things. And like Asia said, should we ever lie to our children? Absolutely not. Are we imperfect? Yes. And so, we have to do what, we have to go with our convictions. And so I would say, do I think that somebody's going to go to hell because they're telling their children that Santa is real or not real? No, but I do think that it's important of what type of focus that we have on that, no matter what the holiday is. So
Yeah, no. Again, all good points. Look, so Davion chimed in. He said, "Let children be children. However, I agree it's up to the parents and their belief on when, where, and how they tell them. It is the parents' choice at the end of the day." I sort of agree with you, Davion. So one, it is up. Like we can't tell people how to parent their kids, but if we and people are different, come from different backgrounds. But the thing that's supposed to put us on the same level playing field, if you're a Christian, is the Bible and the Word of God. And if and even though Christmas may have some pagan origins and some ugly stuff or whatever the case may be, and we kind of talked about this a little bit on our Halloween episode, where like should Christians celebrate Halloween and that kind of stuff, right? We looked at like what makes something evil is what you're actually doing. Like Saturday was the where they worship the Saturn god or whatever. Sunday they worship the sun god. And so should we not call our days of the week those days and that kind of stuff? At the end of the day, God's going to judge your heart. So if you're on Christmas worshiping your tree and worshiping, all this other kind of stuff, then God's gonna know that and he's gonna judge you on that. But but at the same time, I think in America we celebrate the birth of Jesus, even though he most likely wasn't born on December 25th, right? And so I think it's very important that you, one, don't lie to your kids. So I'm agreeing with y'all on that. Two, we teach our kids the truth about the birth of Jesus. And it's a perfect opportunity to share the gospel. Whether you celebrate Christmas or not, it is the perfect opportunity to teach the gospel, because most people, they say Christmas and Easter is a time where people are most susceptible to want to hear the gospel. So if you're not sharing the gospel around that time, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to do so. And so I think it's the parents' choice and what they believe. But if you're a Christian, you should be teaching them about the birth of Christ, right? You should be teaching them why Christ came and what did he do when he came, and the gospel altogether. The other thing too is when you look at Santa Claus, and even though Santa Claus was a real person or whatever, the way we kind of Americanized him, if you will, we made him really take the plate. Not only does he take the attention off of Jesus, he's described in a similar way as God. And when I say, does it hinder the kid's faith, you got to look at it like, okay, they're from whatever age up, if we're letting them be a kid from whatever age up, we're like, okay, cool. Yep, Santa's real. Santa's this. He know when you sleep. He know when you awake. You better be good. And so it teaches the kids that, one, they better be good to get something. So it's getting their heart on, I got to do work. Like it could secretly teach them a work salvation, for one. And so when people look at Jesus and God, they're wondering, like, they can't even understand grace that much, because they've been so trained up that I got to be good to get something. I be good in school and I get rewarded. I be bad in school, I get punished, or whatever the case may be. But then the other thing is, it's like when you describe Santa a lot like God, and then you go and try to teach them about God, now they're like, well, how can I believe in God? He sounds a lot like Santa to me. And so then it goes back to what your boy was saying. You take them to learn from Caesar, and then they come back acting like Romans. And then they go into a college and they go into these schools where all these professors and teachers hit them with this other stuff like, yeah, your parents had you believing in Santa, that wasn't real. And your parents had you believing in the tooth fairy, that wasn't real. And so then it really does takes a toll on a kid's faith and their belief system, right? And so I'm not saying suck all the fun out of it. Again, like for me, I'm not a fan of making my kids feel like life as following God, you can't do anything. Everything is the devil, like the water boy mom or whatever. Like, I don't want to kind of have that energy. And so what we do, like my wife, she loves to decorate. So we got Christmas stuff all over the house. We do open up presents. We got a tree, the whole nine. But my kids, I do teach them about Christ. I do want to try to, like me and my wife brainstorming now on what we're going to do as a family over the holiday to teach our kids to give back instead of worry about getting. And so I think next Saturday at my church, they're doing the pantry thing, but I want to do something in addition to that. But I'm going to probably make my kids go do that. And then we're going to try to do something to give. We're going to look for a family that we can bless over the Christmas holidays. I know a lot of churches do, like they're giving offerings and all that kind of stuff. But me personally, where God got my heart at right now, I personally want to bless a family. I want somebody who's like, and that's another thing. A lot of kids from growing up where I grew up from, they can't even have the luxury of believing in Santa, because it's a letdown, because they're poor, or Santa may not get them what they want. And so some kids have the luxury of believing, and some kids they don't. But anyway, I want to be able those are the kind of things that we do on Christmas. Yeah, we have the fun and the gifts and the holiday parties and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we have to let our kids know about the truth about it, or at least about Jesus Christ. And I think it's a good opportunity to do that. So those are my thoughts. Y'all have anything y'all want to kind of piggyback on with that? I know, Asia, you going to have to get off soon. So we'll open it up to you to hear your closing thoughts.
Yeah, so I'll just say this. Yeah, I definitely I guess we did a thing at the church that I'm at, because we used to do tours for tots. So every year, we would make sure that we had like a lot of kids, and my pastor ended up, I guess the Lord ended up speaking to him just behind the truth behind Christmas, because a lot of times I think he was going into this area of like breaking people out of places of poverty and stuff like that around the holidays. And like a lot of times people are going to debt trying to buy people gifts, and going to try to buy. And he said one year he had spent all of his money, like he was working like overtime to buy his kids all these gifts. And he said he came out and his daughter was playing with the box that the gift came out of.
Yeah.
And he said he got so angry because he's like, I just spent all my money on this gift, and she's playing with the box. And he said God spoke to him in that moment, just about that place of like trying to I guess get into what they call the holiday spirit, and just spending all this money and stuff like that. But anyway, it led us down this whole thing about the truth behind Christmas, and just where everything came from, even down to the Christmas tree. Like I never knew certain things about the Christmas tree, and I think it talks about a little bit in the Bible, but like where did that come from, and just all this other kind of stuff. So I know for me, I don't celebrate Christmas, and my nieces and nephews start calling me the Holy Grinch, and they've given me this name every every year, because they're like, I'm the Holy Grinch that stole Christmas. But I give to them all throughout the year. I talk to them about Jesus all the time. And so it doesn't really, I'm always giving. If I think about them, I'm buying them something. And I do use the holidays as a time to spend time with them. And I think every opportunity that we have to share the gospel, whether it's Easter, whether it's Christmas, that's something that we should do. So yeah, when it comes to Santa Claus, I definitely, I don't have kids, but I don't think that I would talk about Santa Claus with the kids. But then on the flip side of that, there's a lot of other fairy tales and stuff that a lot of other people expose their kids to as well. So I just think, just sharing the truth about God's love, and that place of giving, that you know going back to even the holiday, that if it's Christ's birthday, then why are we the ones looking to receive, making that an opportunity to give back? I think that is really awesome, because for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good element in teaching the kids. So yeah, so I don't celebrate in a traditional way when it comes to Christmas, and that could be a whole nother talk. But yeah, so those are my final thoughts. But thank you so much. It was so good meeting you, Courtney, and I
You
appreciate
too.
you just sharing with us tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Asia, I know if you gotta go, I'll swap to the scene where it's just me and Courtney.
Yeah, I'm gonna go now.
Okay, I appreciate you. Appreciate you. Hey, you always dropping nuggets, always dropping jewels, and I really appreciate you. Be
All right.
blessed, sister. All right, let's come
All right.
here.
Be blessed, brother.
All right. So, all right, Courtney. All right, what are your final thoughts?
Okay. Yeah. So I think so. One thing that I am a work in progress for my own relationship with the Lord. And so as I have learned more things, as I've been growing, I'm trying to put that back into my children. And not that my parents made tons of mistakes. They did a great job. But I say that because some of the things that we've been learning about with the curriculum that we're using right now, it's called Gather Round. That's not like a promotional thing to them at all. I just love them. But it is a Christian based. And right now we're doing Christmas around the world. And so we're learning about different traditions that 12 different countries have for around the Christmas time. Even if it's someplace like Israel where it's not primarily celebrated. And we learn about different traditions. And one of the things that we've been able to implement is talking about giving back and doing care packages for people that we know. A lot of times people say, well, come and help with the soup kitchen. And like you said, different churches have different ways of giving. And so last year, my daughter really wanted to make blessing bags for homeless. And so we put those together and just went out and got stuff together and put together like 6 or 7 bags. And then this year we talked about people in our church, some elderly people and people that don't get to come as often for different reasons, and making them care packages, and they wrote down all they wanted to include it. And so I do think that it's important that whether you celebrate Santa or not, as a believer, you have an opportunity, like you had said, that it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to share the gospel with our children and to teach them how to do the same with other people, and that act of giving. And then if there's other things that you do on the side to celebrate, the time of the season, that's one thing. But I do think that it's important of where our focus is. And our focus should always be on the Lord and what he wants us to do, and how he wants us to raise our children, and really ministering into their lives.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. Where our focus is, where our heart is. At the end of the day, you know, you can get on the internet, you can get on YouTube, and you can find all the reasons why if you celebrate Christmas, you're worshiping the devil, and all these pagan histories and all this other kind of stuff. But what you find when you start reading it, studying it, you'll see that some of the things are just playing out lies. Like I was listening to Pastor Mike Winger. He did a study on it, and he was talking about how like they would say the 25th is when such and such happened. Like no, well, actually it was the 23rd, and it was this. And so there's just all kind of different things. And I'm just going to say this. If you're not doing something because of the pagan history, then you can't do anything. Like literally our days of the week has pagan origins. I think one week on the show we're going to talk about should we worship on the Sabbath day. And so I was listening to a pastor speak about that, and he was like, well, one, we don't even know, our calendar has changed so much. We don't even really truly know what day Saturday was. What day Saturday could have actually been on what we celebrate, or what we call now Thursday, like because of our calendars or whatever the case may be. And so it's like it's not necessarily the actual day or being stuck to the law, but it's more so your heart. It's more so where your heart is at. And Asia definitely ministered to me about the thing with like you're going in debt and you're trying to do this for your kids. And so I was previously married, and so we went through a divorce, and I have kids that don't live with me, and so that's like I didn't grow up with a dad, so that's one of the things that that's like one of my regrets in life is like I don't have all my kids in one household. But at the same time, I grew up with my mom, so I would never try to take my kids away from their mom. So a lot of times what I would do is I would try to replace it by like buying stuff or overly calling them or overly, I'll try to overdo it with that kind of stuff. And so if there a year come around where I don't have enough money or whatever to spend it, I feel bad, or I feel like I'm letting my kids down. And in reality, what I really should be focusing more on is just spending the time. Like they're coming in for Christmas or whatever, but at the same time they're getting older now, so they're doing sports and they're doing so they can't really like step away from their normal life and be with me for too long or whatever. And so that's another balancing act there too. But I definitely fell in that trap of like, if I don't get my kids X amount of stuff, then I felt like I was letting them down or whatever. And then the same thing with like my family and stuff. Like me and my wife together have 6 kids. And so after you buy for 6 kids, and then you got you got my family, then you got her family, and then and within those families there's like we're grandparents now too, and then we're uncles and aunties, and so it just before you know it, man, your bank account can be in negatives really fast trying to buy everybody gifts. And so it can be a burden to some people, but I think we should still back what Satan is trying to do and use it as an opportunity to share the gospel. A lot of great points. And people in the comments seem to be enjoying it as well. So thank you, Davion. I said he loved the knowledge. A very educated group of people. So real quick, what I want to do, because I brought it up, and I'm interested to see what I said. So I was able to pull up my video that I did. I don't even know how long ago, but I had the Falcon hat on. I've had this hat for a while, and every Christmas I bring this Falcon hat out. And so I'm gonna see if we can play this clip. It's only 8 minutes.
Okay.
I forgot you're a grandfather. Congratulations. Appreciate it. I know it's weird to even say. My oldest, he just had a baby. So it's weird to even think that I'm a granddad. But anyhow, I'm gonna play my clip of back when I did this a while. Y'all can kind of see how the quality of the show changed from where it was at until now. And then we'll show the clip. It's 8 minutes long. I may or may not play the whole thing. We'll come back, Courtney, and then we'll close it out. That sound like a plan?
Sounds good to me.
All right, so y'all gonna see a little bit of the sausage making because Asia stepped out. So let me come here, and then we'll I'm hearing the echo now. I'm not sure why, but I'm gonna hide Asia's camera. Boom. All right, so I'm gonna hit play. Y'all, hopefully it'll play through. Yep, it should. All right, here we go. Let me know if you can hear it, Courtney. Give me a thumbs up when I play it. All right, so we're a few days out from Christmas, and there's no way I was gonna let the holiday season pass without doing a video on this topic. Now, Christmas is the time that we set aside to reflect and remember and show gratitude on what Jesus did, on the birth of Jesus Christ, and how he came into this world, and how he is the reason why we are forgiven for our sins. However, there's somebody else who's getting the glory during this time of the year. There's somebody else who's getting the credit for the things and the gifts that kids are receiving, and his name is Santa. In this video, I'm going to talk about how it's not wise for us as Christian parents to allow our kids to believe in Santa. In fact, I believe it's a subtle trick of the enemy to attack our kids' faith at a young age. Let's talk about it.
Hey, hold on. Gather around, everybody. Listen up. I got a story to tell.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Rico. If it's your first time coming to the channel, it's a blessing to have you here. And on this channel, we help disciples make more disciples. And today we're talking about how Santa could be a subtle trick of the enemy to attack our kids' faith. And so what I want to do is just share a couple reasons why I don't believe it's wise for us to allow our kids to believe in Santa. Then I want to talk about a couple of things that I do with my kids, so that way they don't miss out on the fun of Christmas, but at the same time, we don't steal the glory from Jesus Christ.
It's weird watching yourself.
And so the first point I like to make is simple and clear, is our faith is the way we are saved. And I believe that allowing our kids to believe in Santa could possibly hinder their faith, because when they realize that Santa is not real and they compare some of the attributes that Santa have to God, then it may make it hard for them to believe in God. The second reason is that it's a flat out lie. You know, like, do we really want to be lying to our kids when we're trying to teach them to have integrity, teach them to tell the truth? And so if we lie to them about this thing, then how do they know we're not lying to them about God? And it can just cause confusion and all kind of issues. But the third thing, and the most important thing, is just look at all the glory that Santa Claus get. Look at how he's compared. Remember the song Santa Claus is Coming to Town? It talks about how he know when you're sleeping, he know when you wake, he know when you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Now, I just want you to just think about that. Who are they really describing? Who is the only being that knows when you're sleeping, when you're awake? Matter of fact, if you read Psalms 139, David talks about this, about how he cannot escape God. No matter where he go, God will be there. Even before he speak, God knows it and understands it. God can search our inner being. He knows us better than we know ourselves. So he knows the condition of our heart. He knows if we've been good. He knows if we've been bad. But teaching our kids this, be good and you get Christmas presents, what does that do? It has them thinking like, okay, well, I got to perform to earn something. And so then that's a common mistake we have in Christianity. We feel like we got to perform to be saved. We feel like we got to do certain amount of things to earn God's pleasure and pleasure and gifts from God. And the reality of it is that because of Jesus, Jesus done everything we need to do to be saved. And so I know there's a debate on like, we're saved by grace alone, but faith without works is dead. And so Paul, he teaches that in Romans. He tells us that before we're saved, there's nothing we can do to save ourselves. We have to depend on Jesus, the reason for Christmas. And James talks about after we're saved, there should be some evidence of our faith. There should be some fruits, and that typically comes out in our works. And so works after salvation is evidence of our salvation, but works before salvation will not save us. And so the only thing that can save us is our faith in Christ, which is why I believe the enemy is trying to attack our kids' faith at a young age. It also takes the focus off of God and put it on Santa. Not only does it put it on Santa, but it put it on us. It's like me, 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 me. What am I going to get for Christmas? Here's the things I want on my list. Instead of thinking about he, what he has done, the gift he's already gave us, the best gift we could possibly have, and that's the gift of salvation, right? And so the reality of it is that allowing our kids to focus on Santa and even send these notes to Santa, things that we're asking Santa for, we should only be asking God. In the book of James, I believe it's James chapter 1, starting like 6-7, it says, don't be deceived. Do not be deceived. All good gifts come from the Heavenly Father. Everything, period. Matter of fact, in James chapter 1, it's all talking about faith and testing faith. And so again, that's what it all boils down to, because faith is the key to our salvation. Belief in Christ is the key to our salvation. And when you allow our kids to believe in this character who doesn't exist, when they realize he do exist, and then you look at the same attributes and you see that Jesus, that God, the Holy Spirit, the Heavenly Father, and Jesus, they all have these attributes, it makes it hard to believe. And so now we're praying for our kids and asking God, like, hey, just save them and help them to understand. And we hope they come to know you. But their whole life, we allowed them to believe in something. So I just want to encourage you all. I don't want to kind of tell you what to do, and I'm not condemning anybody, because for a long time, we did a lot of things that was questionable. But the one thing I never did was allow my kids to believe in Santa. They always knew that the gifts that they got, their parents worked hard for it. Their parents go out and get it, and then sometimes they can't get everything that they want. And not only that, the only reason that we're able to work hard and get what we have, and the reason we're fortunate, is because of God. And so if it wasn't for God, then we would probably be in a position where we can have those certain things. And in fact, there's people who are less fortunate than us who cannot have that. So instead of always focusing on getting, we also need to have a spirit of giving. And so I try to display that for my kids. I try to help out with the homeless, help out in the church, just have a spirit of giving so my kids can know that it is better to give than receive. And as a kid, that's hard to get. But as parents, we can't make it harder by allowing them to believe in somebody who doesn't exist, and actually the attributes given to him are only obtained by God. And so what I typically do is I don't just exclude my kids from Christmas altogether. Matter of fact, if you come into our house where it's decorated, we have the trees and we have things up, but they understand that this is just decoration. We understand it's just having fun during this season. They also know about Christ. Matter of fact, this Christmas we'll probably be reading in Luke 2 and talking about the birth of Christ, just to hammer that in. They know about the gospel. They know how they're saved. They know where their gifts come from. They know who empowers their parents to be able to have the gifts and talents that we have to earn the money that we make. And so I just say this is a great learning opportunity. It's a chance to share the gospel. It's a chance to teach our kids. It's a chance to train them up in the way that they should go. It's a chance for us not to lie to them like the rest of the world is trying to do. And also it's a time for us to spread the gospel with other people. Between Christmas and Easter is the time where people are most open to hear about Jesus. And so I'll say we just take this as an opportunity to share truth instead of spread lies. So if you found any value in the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with somebody. All right, well, I mean, there it is. A lot of the stuff we talked about today, I basically regurgitated, mainly because that's just the way I believe on it, right? But yeah, I think we hammered it in well enough. Courtney, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and allowing my audience to take the time to focus on the importance of educating our kids. A lot of times we can get busy with work, we can get busy with church, we can get busy with discipling others, but we got to remember that we're the people that God ultimately gave us the responsibility for is our family, is our kids. And so if we're not discipling them and we're not teaching them, then we're failing them, and we're setting them up for failure and making it harder for them. So I thank you for coming on the show. Do you have any final words you want to say to the people? Any thing you want to call out for your show? Anywhere you want them to go check out? This is your opportunity, sister.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me here. It's been such a great conversation. I love this question and just the whole conversation between all three of us. It was just wonderful. And I really liked that playback. Yeah, you said a lot of similar things that you had said tonight, but I think that what it comes down to is that even whenever we feel like, as a parent, I have felt several times like, man, I totally screwed that up. Like I messed up, I snapped at my kids. I said something I shouldn't have said. I've done something I shouldn't have done. And Satan likes to remind us of our past too. So a lot of times, at least for me, whenever I screw up as a parent, I think about like other things. It triggers my memories of things that I screwed up in the past. And that's not from the Lord. And so I think that it's important to recognize that even on those days where you think, or maybe like tonight, somebody's watching and they're like, I have totally messed up. I'm feeling convicted, but I don't like, there's no going back. But that's not true. If you're still here, there's always a chance to improve and to do what the Lord wants you to do. And so I hope that people will feel encouraged to know that there's always the opportunity to start fresh and to be an example to our children, no matter the age, that it is a possibility to come back. We can always come back and we always need to be growing. And so I hope that people feel encouraged. And because of that, that is really my goal for my podcast, Imperfectly Pollyanna. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. You can search literally Imperfectly Pollyanna, and there I am. And so, but I have an episode out every week. Usually it's out Wednesday at some point, whether Wednesday morning or mid-morning. And I'm all about trying to find the good in everything, trying to encourage people that it doesn't matter what you've been through in life. It doesn't matter what you've done in life. It doesn't matter where you're at now. You can always be better. You can always find the good. And the world is not determining our outcome, but the Lord has chosen us for such a time as this. So with that, thank you so much for having me here. I'm just so grateful to you so much.
Amen. And it was my pleasure having you. If you ever need anybody to hop on your podcast and chat about teaching in school, I can't focus on the homeschooler, but I can focus on just education, and maybe I can kind of mentor them or whatever, especially too if your kids want to know anything about the Air Force and military. I've been in for 18 years. So just reach out to me, sister. Restoring Broken Women. Yeah. Exactly, Rico. I didn't tell you, your sister, brother, that Santa Claus is real. I told you all God allowed me to be able to go and purchase gifts for you all. That's what my mama taught me. All right, and that's what it's about, y'all. Again, Courtney, you touched on a very important point. The purpose of this is not to condemn anybody. The point of this is to help us to be able to grow in our relationship with Christ. And so some of the stuff we said you may agree with, some of the stuff you may disagree with. But at the end of the day, the Bible should be our common moral ground. And so when you're in your alone time with God and what the Holy Spirit put on your heart, just be obedient to that. And like Courtney said, you can always get better and improve. And I tell my kids all the time, like, some of the mistakes I did, don't use that as an excuse to do the same thing. I was wrong, and here's the right way of doing it. And so now you know better. And now if you make a decision to go down that path at that point, that's on you. But that's our show tonight. I appreciate everybody who rocked with us. If you had, okay, hold on real quick. She says, thanks for sharing, Courtney. Many blessings to you and your calling. All right. So yeah, that's our show tonight. If you didn't hit the like button, make sure you hit the like button. Even throw a little comment in there. That tells the YouTube algorithm to share it with other people, so that way other people can be blessed by it. We can get more believers on here, and we can just fellowship even more. And Courtney, I'm not sure if you know, but what we do here on the show is we dance it out. So I'm going to hit the outro button, and then we're going to dance this thing on out. Y'all have a good night.